beer. All right. I'm not very good at it, but...
Are we going? We're going!
Sorry.
Guys!
Happy Arbor Day, everybody.
Yay! It's Arbor Day. It's a good day.
So, we're here this morning. We're going to be talking about trees, and very specifically, some fruit tree information. We have a special guest with us, Mike Pace from Box Elder County. So, Sheridan and I are going to go off screen, and we're going to start reading you guys' questions as they come in.
And we're going to heckle. No, not really.
I would have expected nothing else.
But
No.
just for social distancing, we're going to leave you two to talk about grafting today.
All right.
The science and art behind it. So we're going to sneak off.
You're not very good sneakers.
I know.
This is Mike Pace. Mike is our, as JD said, he's our extension agent up in Box Elder County and works a lot with the fruit growers. For those of you who don't know, that's kind of Fruit Way. A lot of fruit up there.
For right now, until the...
Well, yeah, there's a little bit of growth going, and we are not always sure what the weather is. So, Mike, talk to us just a little bit about why somebody might want to graft.
Okay, so yeah, so grafting and that, it's an old practice that, you know, a lot of people used to do. You know, the homesteaders and that, they might have a fruit tree that they really liked, you know, mainly apples and that, and they would come along and take a piece of that off of that tree that they really liked and put it onto either their existing tree or maybe a different tree. And you know, a lot of that art has kind of, we've forgotten about it because we haven't been around them. And so there's been kind of the last few years we've been teaching some grafting classes. There's been a lot of interest in that in it right now.
Yeah,
some of those older varieties. And
I know a number of people who say, my great-great-grandfather planted this tree and it's dying and I want to keep the fruit.
yeah.
So this is how you can do that without keeping the whole tree as it dies off.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. In fact, just this year, I've had 2 different people that have contacted me. They're either moving or they've got a tree that's dying and they don't know what variety it is, and so they want to save that variety. And so grafting is one of those ways that we can come in and take a piece of that tree and put it onto, like I said, either an existing tree or a rootstock
Or a new one.
and save it. Yeah. So
I always tell somebody when they ask me, they'll say, how do I know what variety this is? And I tell them, well, first you have to pick the apple, then you have to cut it up, put it into a pie shell, put it into the oven, cook it for a little while, and then bring it to me. And I'll tell you what I think it is.
that's a good way to do that. You know, a lot of times I'll tell people, you know, hey, it's, you know, take the apple and go to a farmer's market and try and find a similar looking apple. And,
Yeah,
you know, there's more scientific ways if we wanted to do it, but yeah, I like your idea. That's a good way of doing it.
Well, tell us what you teach. How do you graft?
So
First off, let me start this. When do you graft?
When do we graft? Do that. Springtime of the year, usually when both the rootstock, and so this is what we call.
So what's a rootstock?
Okay, so a rootstock is going to be the tree that we're going to put it onto, and you can see that they're dormant. You know, there's not growth coming out of it right now. Some of them.
But it is alive.
It's alive. Yep, it's
Okay.
just been sitting there in a fridge that's been keeping those temperatures cool to where they're not going to start growing in the springtime of the year, and so. We bring these in, so when we do our grafting classes and that, I will go into some of these big nurseries and order 300-400 pieces of rootstock that we'll bring into the grafting classes.
And all the rootstocks are the same. You're using 9, I'm guessing, or I mean 7 rather. I'm guessing.
This year we actually brought in some of the dwarfing ones and that.
Okay.
And so
so you can do different things with the rootstocks.
yeah.
Okay.
So
I got the rootstocks.
Yep. So for example, if we wanted to do apples, it's important that we use an apple rootstock. If we want to do pears and that, we want to make sure we have a pear rootstock. And so just like you can go out and order a different variety of apple, you can also go in and order different varieties of rootstocks. And so apples, there's
It's not real common, but yeah.
I mean, most of us want, you know, a semi-dwarf tree. We live in smaller subdivisions, smaller houses and that, and so we just don't have a big yard to put standard trees in, and so we want to be putting in
some dwarfs.
Dwarf and that type
So
of
we
stuff.
get a rootstock
Yep.
or a tree. Now what do we do? How do we stick something onto that?
Okay, and so what
I mean, I use glue, but it just doesn't work very well.
Yeah, and so what we'll do is we'll go out to that variety that maybe we want to save, or that tree we want to save, or maybe it's a variety that, a newer variety that we want, and what we'll do is we go out, I usually will go out in about February or March when, again, the tree's dormant.
Okay.
Of course, we can see the trees behind us are
Beautiful.
blooming and beautiful and that.
So you kept this in the fridge?
Yeah, this is something that I've kept in the fridge, and what we'll do is will have these buds on it, and so we can come in and cut those off. And so what I'll typically do is when I go out in the springtime of the year, I'll come in and look for last year's growth. It's usually out on
starting
the edge
from
of
the
it.
tip back.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, that's
I got you.
perfect wood of what we want to cut off. And I'll just come in and just cut that off the tree. And now I've got.
And this is in February, early March.
Yeah,
Okay.
when the trees are dormant. And so
Okay.
then what we have is we have a piece that we're going to be able to use to put onto our rootstock.
Okay, and this is called the cyan. This is the good stuff.
Yep, this is
the
variety.
apple I want.
This is the apple I want,
All
or
right.
the pear that I want. And so we'll just come in and just cut off kind of the bottom part of it. Usually I'll cut off the bottom part. I'm trying to match up the diameter of the scion wood with the diameter of the rootstock. So
Okay,
that,
so
when I
that
put
they'll
it on,
Be
yeah,
about the same size. You want them about the same size.
I
Okay.
do. That makes it a little bit easier. I mean, we could do it with some smaller, bigger stuff, but it makes it a little more difficult. And so what I'll do is come in and just cut that now kind of the tip off, because that's probably the smaller stuff, and those buds probably are not as mature.
Okay.
So I'll just cut that off. And now
Can-
this is what I can do.
Can we take a couple questions while we're
Sure,
doing this, or
you
would
bet.
you rather just finish and
No,
then
let's
take
take
questions?
questions now.
So there was a question about where do you get rootstocks? Where do you purchase them?
So for smaller quantities than that, you can go out to Rain Tree Nursery. Is a good source. They will sell them to homeowners in just 1, 2, 3 small quantities. If they're looking for larger quantities, like Trico Nursery,
Then you can. That's
that's
a couple hundred.
yeah, that's a bundle of 100 is what the smallest quantity they'll sell it for.
Okay. So we've got the cyan wood.
Yep. And
We
so,
put it in the fridge. Well, you've cut it up.
Yep, I'll usually come in and cut it just so it makes it easier.
Looks
to
like it's
store in
about
the
4
fridge.
inches.
Yeah, 4 or 5 inches, and you can see we've got somewhere between 6 and 8 buds on each one of those
Okay.
sticks now.
All right.
And then I will usually come in with like a Clorox bleach solution and just with water and kind of
So a 10% maybe solution.
Yeah, up to about 10% it can
Okay.
be, and I'll let it sit there in that water for about 2 minutes. And that'll kind of kill any bacteria that's going to be on the surface of that.
Okay.
And then I'll just roll it in a paper towel and keep it moist. Something's
Oh, I was
going
going
to
to
keep
say,
it moist.
is the paper towel moist?
Yeah, just
All
it
right.
could be some peat moss, could be sand, whatever, just to keep that moist so that
Gotcha.
they're not going to dry out.
Okay. And then you stick them in a bag, did you say?
Yep.
And in the fridge.
And in the fridge, in the kind of that salad crisper unit. It's about the right temperature.
Yeah,
for
mine
that.
does. My salad crisper doesn't get used for anything else, so it may as. I mean, lettuce. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's great. And I'll just keep them there until I get my rootstock and I'm ready to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm ready to do it. Now
Okay,
what?
Let's do it. So, for example, if I tell people that
So you've kept your rootstocks in some thing.
some peat
They're
moss,
moist.
yeah,
Is that
something
peat
moist.
moss?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
just something to keep them moist in that so that they don't dry out. Because, like you mentioned, they're alive. We don't want it to dry
Don't
out
want
on
them
us.
to die.
So now, if I bring my rootstock and my cyan wood, I kind of want to see where I want to be putting these on the
So you're
tree.
kind of looking for close to the same diameter.
Yeah.
All right.
With it. So if I were to say, okay, I want to put it, we can kind of match those up, and if I look at it, where did my small one go? I can see those different sizes.
Oh
there.
yeah. I'd go with the bigger one.
Go with the bigger one, and I think if we were to put that on somewhere right here, that's about where we could put it on.
Because then the
there.
smaller one wouldn't line up as well.
Yep.
I see that.
Yep. Now I use a tool that makes it really easy, and this is just called a grafting tool or an omega tool, and
Omega Grafting Tool.
omega grafting tool.
And they could just order that on the internet.
On the internet, yeah, there's not a lot of supplies like this that are out there found in the nursery industry.
But this is an Omega Grafting.
I believe I've seen them on Amazon actually.
Have you
so
seen them on Amazon?
Google.
Yep.
Google those.
Yeah, they'll
Google
be about Google it. They'll run you about $20 to $30
Oh, that's not
for
bad.
cheap. So they're not. Yeah.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is when I squeeze this, it makes a puzzle looking like piece. And so I'm just going to put it on here up above where we're going to be putting it. Actually, I'm going to put my glasses on first, Jerry, so I get older here.
What? You and I both.
And so what we do is I'm going to practice up above where I want to put it, make sure I make that.
Cody, can you
Cut.
bring that camera over here?
Maybe we can zoom in and show how that cut is made on a different piece.
Yeah. And so what that does is now where I made that cut,
way, Cody.
you can see that it kind of makes this puzzle looking cut on that piece. And now this is what I'm going to take off. Here's the joint that I'm going to be putting on my cyanwood onto, and so if I use that same tool, it's going to make that cut, and then I'm able to slip that back together. And that's the thing that makes grafting really
So it's a
easy.
tight fit.
Yeah.
I see. I
Yeah.
see.
So once I have that piece off, I just come onto my cyanwood.
So this was off the rootstock,
Yep. Well, I'll make sure we.
and that's no good anymore.
Yep, that's no good. We just throw
I'll
that
throw
away.
that to JD.
Throw that away. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I just will put that cyanwood on the opposite side there.
So you flipped it over basically.
flipped it over so that I'm making the
So now you're making the female cut, or the male cut.
male cut. Yep. Male
And
cut
that's
on
the
that.
female there. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And now that should fit fairly easy and pop in
Look
there
at that.
really nice.
Okay, Cody.
Okay, Cody. what
Don't
do you
get
need to come in?
comfortable on us.
So if you come in, you see right here where we've made that what we call the graft union, where my finger is at right here, and it just really fits those two pieces together really nice. And that's
Yeah, it
what
does.
makes it easy to do with that. Once I've got that together and I like the cut, I like the way it's fitting together, usually what I will do is I will leave no more than 3 buds on this.
Okay,
on
so
this
these are the
known variety.
buds,
Yep.
Cody. See them there. And you're going to leave 2 to 3.
Yep.
All right.
So I actually right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them on there, and that's too many.
That's too many. Okay.
Because once this graft union heals and it starts moving the energy and the water flow across that graft union, I don't.
You only want the 2.
Yep.
3.
So we'll just
Okay.
come in, 1, 2, 3 on it there.
Now I'm guessing you're trying to keep this moist,
Yeah.
not dried out, so that it's still got some.
Yep.
Okay.
And when I go to fit them together, I'll usually have a piece, some water that I can dip it into. But since we don't
I was going to say I've seen people put it in their mouth.
put it in
yeah.
the mouth, just a little bit of moisture on that. We'll put it back.
I'm sure there's no germs there.
No. And
I've heard that actually helps myself.
and we
I don't know why.
something in there, some bacteria, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then once I've got it fitting in there the way I like, I'm going to just take and wrap that, because what the wrapping is going to do, and I've used a lot of electrical
I was
tape
going to ask
before.
what this is.
This is just a parafilm, and
Okay.
they'll use it a lot in the medical industry for putting over top of petri dishes in the labs.
So you're just trying to keep it so the moisture doesn't,
I want to secure it,
so that it, okay, secure it and keep moisture.
on it.
All
Yep.
right.
And the nice thing about it is that you'll see that it stretches.
Oh yeah.
And it sticks to itself when we wrap it on there, and that's what I electrical tape will do the same thing, but this is just
And it's okay. I mean, black electrical tape could work. You're just trying to keep it secure and water it, or moisture.
Yep, so it doesn't
All right.
dry out right there. So we're going to wrap that. So we'll just come in and I'll start down below that and just kind of start pulling it tight. And as I go up, I kind of have it at that angle, and I just wrap that.
I didn't even have to tell Cody to zoom in on that.
And once I'll go up above it,
Of course.
and I just start back down around it, and then I just pull it and
Wow.
pulls it on right there.
That feels like, oh yeah, that's secure.
Yeah, it was. It lined up too until that happened.
Tell me, till I came.
And that's the thing.
And that's why I'm the host and not the actual
I point that
person.
out because a lot of times people will say, "Hey, I forgot to clip that," and then if they come in and clip that,
Clip it.
we might dislodge it, and so it's really critical.
So what you're telling me is keep your hands off
Keep your
once
hands
you've got
off,
it
yeah.
lined up and
Yeah.
on. Okay. Wish you'd have told me that earlier.
And then the last thing that I'll do is, so that we don't dry out here from the top down on it, I will use something. This is a commercial product that I have, but you could use something like glue, something like
Anything? You're just trying to seal this in?
Yep. So we'll just come in and take and just put a little bit of that on the top, and now that's going to seal that top of it. So now I've sealed it here, sealed the top, and now.
So now all the energy will go right into these buds.
Yep, pushing
Okay.
those buds.
All right.
Once I have that done, I'm just going to let these new ones just sit inside. I'll take them in the house where our temperatures are about 50 or 60.
So you won't put this outside. You'll actually take it into your house.
I'll take it into my house and I'll leave it inside for about 10 days, 14 days. Sometimes if it's going to be cold. The last thing I want it to do really is to start pushing this new growth out of here and then have a frost come and freeze those buds on it.
But you do want it to start growing. So could I just put this right here in my house?
Just
or do
like
I need
that.
a pot?
Yep, just like that. So if you look, here's some that I did. Oh, these have been in my house about 10 days ago.
Okay.
And I keep it moist. This is just keeping our roots moist.
So it could be anything. Peat moss.
Yeah, peat moss, sand, anything. that's gonna
potting
keep-
soil.
Yeah, potting soil, anything there. So you can see
Wow,
on
look at
these,
That's a different one.
This is a little bit different type of a graft
Yeah.
that I've done here, but I can see that
Oh, look at those
these
buds.
buds are starting to push,
Look
what
at
we call
that.
push.
Yeah, look at that.
So now I know, and if you think of it, okay, they're starting to push, those buds are starting to grow. Again, if I were to set that out, yeah, maybe it's not going to get cold in the next couple of days, but hopefully by about Mother's Day, our frost is past and we can put those trees out.
When you say put them out, can I plant them?
Plant them, yeah, plant them.
So find a nice place to plant them.
Nice place. Usually I'll put them in like a grow bed area. Maybe it's a part of the flower bed that I'll put them into where I'm going to get water on them consistently, because a lot of times people want to put them in pots and try and grow them in the
Yeah,
pot.
I was going to say, so I've heard people say, well, can I just put it in a pot and keep it for a couple years? And my experience tells me that most people that put anything in a pot,
They don't
not
like
good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually they'll dry out, and that's the last
forget
thing we
about
do.
'em.
Yeah, you forget about them, go on vacation, come back, and get this nice toasty, dead plant
Stick.
in a pot, stick in a pot.
Stick in a pot.
Okay, we have a question. How many different kinds of grafts can you put on the same rootstock?
So, probably most of us have seen out in the industry where you can buy an apple tree that's got 4 or 5 different varieties of apples on there, and so it's really, if you get good at it, you can put 20, 30 different ones. I've got trees at my house that have got 6, 8 on there.
6, 8 different varieties on one
On
tree.
the tree.
So you're doing
It's
this
not-
actually on the tree, not on a bench.
I can do it, yeah.
So do you do it at the same time? I mean, in the winter, is that?
I will, and what you can do is you can use this same type of a cut, Jerry, with this tool on a branch that's coming off. If you look at this tree right here, sorry Cody, if this tree was dormant and not actively growing, I could come in on a branch right here and make that cut right
So you
there.
want to do it when this is dormant, when
Yep.
there's no beautiful flowers on
Yep.
it, and before the buds push.
Yeah.
And then do the graft and do it exactly like you did here.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
you could come in with a tree like this. It's a flowering crabapple, and I could put have one of these branches be white and another one's pink, another one's red, and so I've got this really cool
Yeah, that
specimen
is
type
cool.
crabapple tree.
Yeah, I was going to say that just hit me. Why don't we do that? Why don't we create, because there's like 500 different crab apples.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
I'm off topic.
There's a few reasons.
Yeah, I'm off topic.
Yeah. Sometimes though, what happens is you get a tree that's a little more aggressive, and so like a Granny Smith that and so you've got 5 of these on there, and so it's going to grow a little more. So you have to prune it a little bit more to keep it in shape. But yeah, you could put lots of different varieties on there.
But you brought up pruning. I've learned from a friend
Friend.
that you got to be careful because you can prune an entire variety off if you're not careful.
Yep.
So I've seen somebody spray paint colors on them so that, oh yeah, why is that spray paint? Oh yeah, don't prune off.
I made that mistake,
And you're
forgot the
admitting.
varieties on there and cut the variety off, and it was too late. But yeah, so there's a lot of fun once you kind of know the concept. Yeah, this is simple to do it this way, but then I can take the same principle that we're talking about here and
do it right.
do it on a tree.
So if somebody wants to start, they're saying, oh, this is so cool. Would you recommend them starting with something like this and learning the process and then going to their tree?
Definitely.
Because I know you're good, and I think your success rate is somewhere up around 80, 90%, which is unreal. My success rate, well, let's just not talk about it. Okay, it's low. But that's cool. So this is how they and you have classes every spring.
I do teach classes in that every springtime in
And
the
they
year.
fill up.
They do. It's been
cool.
funny. My wife
It's cool.
kind of harasses me and says, man, haven't you taught everybody in the state of Utah that wants to learn how to graft? And I says, it's funny because you do. You find a lot of people. I'll still do classes and have 100 and 150 people that come to the classes.
That's incredible.
So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, the
And
basics,
you still got all of the Great Basin states to cover too.
Yeah.
So you're just starting.
So Kyle had a question, and he has a flowering cherry tree that has white blossoms, but they've grafted on some of the pink blossoms. The pink ones aren't flowering anymore. Any words of wisdom there? Anything that you can say about that?
I would make me wonder why they're not flowering. Because for example, on one of the branches that I have on one of my apple trees, I noticed that we've had some winter injury on it, and so it's not flowering because of the injury there. But I Can you think of anything, any reason, Jerry, as to why it may not?
No, that's kind of odd. And I haven't got a lot of work with cherries, so that would be a new one to me. I've never even tried to graft a cherry. So
I mean, sometimes, for example, if it's an apple and you know, if it bore heavy last year on that particular branch, you know, you're not going to get a return.
You get that biennial bearing going.
Yeah, the biennial bearing in that on it. But if it's just not over the last 5 years not producing, I don't know why it wouldn't be blooming in that. But
And one more question, Mike, are you done teaching grafting classes for the year?
yes.
Yes.
So typically, if they're interested in doing grafting and that, I will start those classes about the 15th of April, and I'll do them for about 10 days because all the materials I bring in, and I try and keep them dormant. And so usually that's when they want to start. Those classes will start. It's the 15th of April through about the 22nd, 23rd of April.
So what I will do is I will put a link to our class schedule in the chat, and you'll want to start watching for these classes in January, February next year so that you can get on board for this
Correct.
year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Mike will bring. You do a fantastic job. This is the problem, is you do a good job. He will have the rootstock there,
Yep.
and we have in our demonstration orchard over here about 50 different. You have about 50 different
Yeah, we
varieties
do.
of apples, and so they can kind of. And I know I had a friend once who came and brought his own apples, kind of like what
Yeah.
we talked about, because his grandfather had planted it and he wanted to keep the tradition alive. Didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So that is really cool that you're able to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, you know, and it's one of those classes to where, you know, to make I want the individuals to have success with it, and so that's why I try and, you know, get everything the same size, and, you know, so it's perfect. So I want to have success because that's how I kind of started about 15 years ago. Is you know, playing around with some of the stuff, and yeah, I started doing it this way, and the success, I was having a lot of success, and it's like, oh, you know, and you mentioned, you know, these are a couple of different grafts in that, and so I've got to where I'll do different grafts just to improve my
that's cool.
my ability, and it kind of catches on. So it's a lot
It
of fun.
does, and it's incredible to me because I remember when you started about 15 years ago, and I remember you saying, well, we're learning this, and we're at about 50% success rate. That was about 15 years ago. Now it's, I mean, everybody that takes a class that I know of says, yeah, they're growing. I mean, I don't know what your success rate is, but it's got to be up 90%.
Yeah, I can do this. Yeah, it'll get 90% on some of this. You know, some of the other budding and that we do is a little bit different, and you know, I'm improving there. But it's a lot of fun. And you mentioned that, Jerry. I mean, back 15 years ago, back when we were trying to get that orchard established, that's what we did, was brought in a lot of that wood that we
did.
That we grew those trees, and so that's a lot of fun in itself, is be able to have something like this. It starts to grow, and you know, it grows into a nice tree, and then you put it into the orchard, and it's kind of a
It
specimen
is.
type tree.
And what I love, I've got a friend like you who lives in Salt Lake who has probably 8 varieties, and he's only got about, I don't know, 5 or 6 apple trees, but he's got 40 varieties.
Yeah.
And so he'll go out there and he has them all painted,
Every
like
week,
I
yeah.
said, and starting in about the end of August, 1st September, he just goes out and says,
Picking
okay,
apples.
what's
Yep, that's
happening
right.
now?
Yep.
And he's got a little map so he doesn't forget what, and I don't know what you do, but he just has a color-coded map. Oh yeah, that's Crispin, or you know, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's a lot of It's a lot of fun. Because like, you know, to have 2 trees, but yet you've got multiple varieties, and you know, you're getting fresh apples every couple of weeks that you can. I like to. You know,
Well, yeah,
fresh.
and then you got apples from September through November,
Yeah.
fresh off the tree. Yeah, I see that we're being pushed out.
Well,
No, we just wanted to come in and thank Mike for coming down and sharing his expertise.
Yes.
thank you. That's awesome.
Well,
And we
it's a
did
pleasure
have
to be here
somebody
with you.
say that you inspired them, so they're going to go out and they're going to do this. So that
Mike
is fantastic.
always inspires me.
I
Every
know.
time he comes down.
Every time I'm like, I need to be
wanna
more like Mike Pace.
I know, I want to be like Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's our new motto in
Thanks,
the
guys.
office. So yeah, thanks for coming down.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
And take a look at our spring snow crabs, blooming really nice. It's Arbor Day, so I had to point out other
Yeah.
trees
Yeah.
that are.
So go visit your local nursery, support them, buy a tree, plant it this weekend to celebrate this great holiday.
And if you don't have any place to plant it, buy the tree, bring it by. We'll find a place.
We'll
to plant
find a place to put it for you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Thanks for watching.
We'll
and
see
happy
you guys
gardening.
soon. Yeah, happy gardening.